I would like to welcome you to our new program, The Expense Advisor. So, what you are seeing on your screen is basically the program, which has been programmed in Python. Um, so, we'll get started on it, but before that, the problem that we're trying to tackle is that there are many people in the world, including students and employees, who are not really aware of how they're spending their money, and they're usually spending them in a wrong way. Like they could be doing it way better. So our program is aimed to focus on that and improve their spending habits. So let's get right on to it. So basically, the first line says import matplotlib dot pyplot as plt. So what this basically does is that it allows me to show the charts and such as the bar charts and the pie charts, which we'll see later on in this video. So these labels, values, I'll get to it. So first we're saying that welcome to our very own personalized expense advisor, and note that this is for your monthly expense. Then we're going to get on to, we're asking their monthly income, and then we're saying that it's going to split into 11 crucial aspects. So firstly, we're going to talk about the housing aspect. So they enter 1 if they pay for housing, or 2 if they don't. And then, so how much money they spend for housing each month. And so what happens is that this is converted into percentage, and this is appended into the housing percentage. So the values that we saw earlier, it's going to go there. And now we have, if now that happens if they don't, now the values would be 0. And if they don't put a number 1 or 0, 1 or 2, then this will be printed, and the program repeats as we have a while loop, and we've initiated a variable called exit, the beginning. So this ensures that if they don't enter 1 or 2, it's going to keep on looping. Then we have the transport, and it's the same way as the previous one, how it works. And then we have food, then we have debts, then we have savings, then we have utilities, then we have recreation, then we have health, then we have knowledge, then we have personal expenses, then we have some donations. So that's the 11 aspects we're focusing on. Now, after that, so we're going to print their respective percentages so they can see, and we've given them each number. Now here is where the pie chart comes. So when we play the program, we can see how this comes into play. So this will give them the program, give them the pie chart, and they can compare it to these values and the numbers. So now we ask them if they like to see a comparison. So the comparison would be between, so this is for an average 25-year-old man, and of course they're different, so it just has to be around. And it doesn't have to be around, but if it is, that's great. If it's not, we can change it. That's what we're here for. And after we give them the rough idea, we're going to work on theirs. So this will then give them the bar chart, which we're going to see in a minute. Then lastly, we're going to give them a bit of advice, so on how they should be spending. So we're saying that at least a 10% for building assets each month, 5% to cultivate their knowledge, a 5% for recreation, and finally they must tithe, which is around 10% each month. And we're also going to say that if they're struggling to give to the poor, then they must remember that as you sow, so you reap. So the more you give, the more you get. So this would probably help them to help others. And then below we're going to give them the budget structure. So we'll see. So basically, if the value is greater than 0, so if they actually have inputted a value for that, then they're going to get something. So that's going to be how much they should be spending. So this is in terms of money. So this is personalized. So for their income, so if they're spending around 20,000, then 20,000 times, if their income is 20,000, 20,000 times 0.3, which would be 30% of that income should be spent for housing if they are spending for housing. Now this works for food, transportation, etc. For savings, it's a must. For recreation, it's a must. For knowledge, it's a must, and donation, it's a must. All these are a must. The rest can be optional. Now, if so then we're saying that if the balance is greater than zero, we're showing how much balance they have, and that this could be invested in any other category. So usually should be for building assets. And finally, we're just going to give some tips based on this video that we've attached here. So it's a YouTube link that could help them, that could give them some insights on psychological factors that affect their spending. And finally, we're just attaching a quote saying that more money can't fix bad spending habits. So with that, let's get on to the program itself. And I forgot to say, the reason why I'm using PyCharm is because this function, matplotlib, um, to actually show the charts, I need to use this because in idle I couldn't use it, so I'm using this program. So let's get on to it. So welcome to your very own personalized expense advisor. Note, remember that questions asked are to analyze your monthly expenses. So now let's say 20,000 is going to be our monthly income for this person. And then now we're going to split them, and we're asking if they pay for their housing. Now, just to make sure, if I enter some random digit, it's going to say that I have entered an incorrect value. Now this person doesn't pay for his housing. Apparently his workplace does it for him, so housing is free for him. But for transportation, he has a car, so for the fuel and maintaining, he spends around 400. Then for food, he does spend, and he spends around 2,000. Then for debts, yes, he has debts, and he's spending around 800. Then for if he has any savings, he spends around 1,000 dirhams for that. Then for utilities, yes, he does. He spends around 750 for that. Then for any recreational activities, so he spends around 1,000 for that. Then, oh, sorry, yeah. So it was 1, which I had to press, and then it's 1,000. And then if this person spends anything for healthcare, so yes, he does, and it's around, let's say, 400. And for knowledge, well, this person doesn't care about that, so he's not gonna spend anything. For personal expenses, well, let's say he's spending 5,000 for this, and for the needy, he doesn't do anything. Now we've got the pie chart. So as you can see, the percentages you spend for each category are respectively are below. So as we can see, housing percentage is 0, which means there is no housing percentage here. Now for the transportation, it's 2%, and as you can see, that is the 2%. Then for debts, for savings, it's 5%, and so on and so forth. So this gives the user a clear idea of how much they're spending each month. Now, once we close this, it asks us if we like to see the comparison, and I'm going to say yes. And now comes the bar chart. So the blue represents the person's expenditure in percentage, and the orange is the one with the average values. So from here we can see that this person has been spending relatively well over here, but when it comes to the personal, he's been spending way too much. So he could probably spend this somewhere else, maybe invest, and we'll see about that later. So this is to give a quite good comparison for the person to understand how they're spending. So next we have a bit of advice. Like earlier we saw, we have a bit of advice, and then now we're gonna give them the budget structure. So since this person spends for transport and he spends around 400, so this person can actually spend around 1,000. But since only 400 is needed, he could take the rest and put it maybe in his assets or savings. Now, we should remember that this is just an ideal budget structure and not the exact. So for food, 2,000, that's a perfect 2,000 which he's spending. For debts, he could spend around 1,000. For savings, he could add 1,000 more, which would be 2,000. For utilities, 1,000. Recreation, 1,000. For health, he could even spend 1,000. And for knowledge, which he didn't spend, he must spend 1,000, which is very important. And for personal expenses, he must bring from 5,000 to 2,000, which is best for him. And we can also see that a tithing of 2,000 is a must. Now, since he has a balance of 6,000, which could be spent in any of these categories. Usually should be for tithing, could be for personal, for knowledge, or even savings and building assets, which are very important. And again, we have the video, so we're going to give them extra tips. So once they click that link, it's going to take them to the video. And finally, we have the quote, and this program repeats over and over again. So that's it for the program. And if you have any more questions or any more queries, you can go on to our Word document, which has the details of the proposed solution, the features, the uniqueness, the targets, and the benefits. So yeah, thank you for your time. Hope you liked our product. Thank you.